Stalkarounds are part of our atmosphere here at Scarowinds. We're very tall monsters, about 8 foot, 9 foot tall monsters, due to the fact that it's essentially a 4-foot mannequin on somebody's shoulders. We call them Stalkarounds just because literally they stalk people around the park. A couple of the Stalkaround character names, especially the ones who have been here a long time. We have Freak, who's in the playground, essentially just a really mutated child.
I love him. He's really creepy looking because he's so big and has 2 faces, 3 eyes, 2 noses, but the kids in playground really play with him well.
We also have Creepo, which is right here behind me, one of our creepiest clowns with the longest standing stalks.
Big Bertha, she was pretty much the operator for defects. She's horribly burned, has a gas mask on her face, about 9 to 10 feet tall.
This guy right behind me is named Alucard. Essentially Dracula spelled backwards, but he is one of the vampires, one of the first vampires is the way kind of the backstory we have for him.
Jockmed, he's a, pretty much everyone knows him as a bobblehead skeleton.
A cross between Ahmed from Jeff Dunham and Jack Skellington from Nightmare Before Christmas. So we kind of combine those two and went with that. We have Undertaker, we have a Grimsley character, we have a pure demon character, and then we have one that's called Nightmare because nobody fully knows what he is. Almost looks like a skeleton alien, but looks like he came out of some kid's nightmare. The oldest Stalkaround that we still have functioning is Wolfie. Now, I say that because technically Creepo here is the oldest one, but the Creepo that we originally had went down about 2 years ago, and it was such a beloved character here in the county fair area that we got a replacement for him. But Wolfie is the longest standing character that was originally here when we first bought the stalks. The history of the Stalkarounds is really interesting because they started about 3 or 4 years after the Scarowinds Halloween Haunt actually started, so they weren't one of the first departments here at Scarowinds, but they became really popular really quickly. And when they originally started, they were actually men and women on basically platform shoes. They didn't have the mannequins on their shoulders like they have now.
It's pretty much just upper body strength, just going on 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off with about 30 pounds to about 85 pounds or so going on your shoulders.
The biggest thing I tell people as far as operating a Stalkaround monster is the major motions inside the character. The mannequin on the shoulders has a shoulder bar about a foot above your head, and the arms hang down from either side of those bars. And then there's essentially bike handles that you hold on to for the elbows. They come out from the monster's elbow, and that's what you're holding. And the bigger the motions in the stalk, the more normal the actual monster looks. Because if you make small motions, if you're actually making like normal to you inside the stalk ends up looking really wonky. So the bigger the motions, the more flamboyant, for lack of a better term, the more normal the monster actually looks.
Challenges, mostly I had to say weather, whether it be rain or wind, pretty much, because we really can't go out if it's raining just because the costumes of what they're made out of. Also, if the ground's too slippery, you really don't want about 35 to 85 pounds falling on you if you fall. And the wind, pretty much just, we're acting like a kite at that point.
I have really bad body heat, so it has to be like, it gets really hot really quickly in some of the costumes. Maneuvering in the costume is quite difficult because it's kind of hard to see, like, from the outside looking, it's kind of hard to see, like, what you're moving. Sometimes there are obstacles in front of you, or, like, sometimes it's hard to see, like, underneath you because our viewpoint is very narrow. Especially when it comes to the fog. Fog gets really bad.
I am a Stalkaround cohort, which means I get to walk around with the tall guys, basically to make sure that they're safe and can get around easily. Each night we work with a different Stalkaround. We get assignments. If it's required, if we don't have enough cohorts, sometimes we work with 2 monsters a night. Being a Stalkaround cohort is kind of difficult because our stalks have very limited vision, so I have to maneuver them around, especially in the dark. My favorite part of my job is probably that I get to walk around the whole park. I get to see everything. I get to really interact with the guests. I get to talk to them. It's a really interesting experience.
Most of them are like big giant groups, and it always has to do with like a guy coming up to me and like thinking they're all that big and bad. It's the funniest thing to do. Is like I can jump in my costume, and I would jump towards them, and like I'd always get like one or two guys would fall almost to the ground completely, and then you just see like them scattered like roaches. It's hilarious.
My personal favorite scare, I was with Jacques Med just outside of Scary Tales, and this kid was running away, and this mom just grabs the child and runs into the store. Just like, it was great. She just snatched the child up and was gone.
One of my guys was going after this group of girls. It was about a group of about 5 or 6, and he jumped at this group of girls, and for some reason, instead of splitting off all in the same direction, I don't know if one of them had the hand of another one, but all 6 of them turned in on each other, and it ended with like one tripping over another, and then all of a sudden just a pile of 6 girls was on the ground, and my monster was just standing over top of them because they can't talk, they can't really help him out, and he was just wondering like, what do I do? And you could just see it like in the cohorts as well, like they didn't know what was going on. And then as these girls are trying to get up off each other, they're looking up and still being scared by him as he's trying to walk away. It was pure gold.
A group of men running and falling flat on their faces while they're skidding across the ground, doing that about 3 or 4 times.
I was in a statue scare, and a bunch of people were like up to me and trying to say, "It's fake, it's fake, it's fake," and it was just the funniest expression on their face. As soon as I bolted towards them, they all like horror in their face, and it's just like, it was hilarious, and start running. It was probably the best scare.
I don't remember.
Having a group of girls sliding into Papa Luigi's while it was wet, slipping and falling right into the door as soon as they got in. I've been Stalk going on 8 years now.
For 3 years. This is my 3rd year.
Oh, the entertainment. Scaring people with these giant costumes on, the Stalks get the scares that no one else can really get.
Just being different, really. It's one of those things, it's one of those things like you don't see that very often, just a 12-foot tall thing coming towards you. Sometimes you see them like you think like we're big and we're just like we're really slow, but sometimes a lot of the times I can like move very quickly and stuff like that. So it's just one of those things. It's a lot of fun to operate.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Oh, that's funny. After time.
Vlad originates from another world. All kinds of dark, evil creatures, ghouls, vampires, werewolves are very much real. And Vlad and his legion have had to battle a lot of those creatures.
What? That is what?
Monica and Kelly are awesome. I always joke around and tell people we got Monica on board as far as the the popularity train. We're one of her favorites, whether or not she admits it. Best memories I've ever had was back when we had Feeding Frenzy. Like I said earlier, we have a character named Demon, and I was in Demon, and I was outside of Feeding Frenzy, and we always joke around about Kelly like giggling whenever she gets mad. I was outside of Feeding Frenzy, and not knowing who Monica and Kelly were at the time, it was my first year as a monster, I ended up jumping at both of them and getting a fist right in the chest of the costume. I felt so mad because, once again, I didn't know who this woman was. All I know is I had a fist in my face and she was walking away laughing hysterically. So I was like, oh no. But then come to find out it was Kelly, and just looking back on it, it was one of my most favorite memories of all time, because that's when I knew, like, I got her and she will never admit it.
Leroy.